Judge Juan Merchan, who's presiding over Donald Trump's hush money case in Manhattan, finally ruled on the question of whether Trump had violated, many times, the gag order that the judge had imposed. He ruled yesterday the former president violated the order 9 times, giving him a $1,000 fine for each offense, no jail time, as many on the left had hoped. The judge weighed the arguments over almost 2 weeks, gave Trump's team a chance to respond in writing, held a hearing on it. Most judges would have ruled right away on a gag order violation. He handed down a measured, carefully considered decision. And that's very much in line with how this judge has handled this case so far. Fair, thoughtful, which is the exact opposite of what former President Trump has been saying about the judge.
But you have a judge who's totally conflicted, totally, absolutely conflicted, that he's rushing this case through.
And then after the ruling, Trump said on Truth Social, quote, "The trial is going like a speeding bullet because the judge is working hard to make all of his friends happy. Merchan is rigged, crooked, and above all, and without question, conflicted." Now, let me be clear on what I have said previously, before the trial started, right? I said that Judge Merchan should have recused himself based on the perception of bias. Judge had made a $15 donation to President Biden's 2020 campaign, a pair of $10 donations to a pair of progressive voter turnout groups. Sure, tiny donations, but because of even just the perception, the possibility of the perception of bias, I thought the judge step aside, let someone else have this case. With that said, Judge Merchan has proven himself with his actions and rulings to be more than fair to the former president so far. In addition to yesterday's gag order decision, the judge ruled the trial will pause on May 17th so that Donald Trump can attend the high school graduation of his son, Barron. The former president had falsely accused the judge of having already ruled against his request. The judge granted it. He's going to suspend court for the day. Now, that ruling is obviously not consequential to the outcome of the trial, right? But there are numerous decisions made by Judge Merchan which more directly impact the case that have gone in favor of Donald Trump. They don't seem to want to talk about it. For starters, the judge denied prosecutors' request to play the infamous Access Hollywood tape in court, where Trump is heard talking about grabbing women's private parts, ruling that it would be overly prejudicial. It was a big deal. It was a close call legally. Prosecutors wanted to get that tape in front of the jury because they say it showed the context around what was happening when the payoff to Stormy Daniels occurred. The judge isn't letting it happen. Judge Merchan also ruled that prosecutors will not be allowed to introduce sexual misconduct allegations against Trump from 8 other women. Another huge decision in Trump's favor, calling the allegations, quote, complete hearsay, and ordering they not even be mentioned. Going back to jury selection, Judge Merchan seemed to go to great lengths to try to find as fair jurors as they could. There was one notable incident where he dismissed a member of the panel after Trump's attorney presented social media posts in which the prospective jurors seemed to show some bias. And then during a hearing last week where the judge was deciding what prosecutors could bring up if Donald Trump testifies, the ruling was once again pretty favorable for Donald Trump. Now, I don't think there's any way Trump's going to testify, partially because when a witness testifies, a lot more dirt tends to be admissible. But prosecutors wanted to cross-examine Trump about 13 different findings against him from prior civil cases involving Trump and the Trump Corporation. Judge rejected more than half the requests from prosecutors. That drastically limits the scope of any potential questioning. And yet, despite all those rulings, the former president remains in attack mode against Judge Merchan.
The judge is conflicted, as you know. It's very unfair what's going on. We have a Trump-hating judge. We have a judge who shouldn't be on this case. He's totally conflicted. The conflict has to end with the judge. The judge has a conflict, the worst I've ever seen. And it has to end with the judge.
Worst he's ever seen. Donated $35. Yesterday on Fox News, Jesse Waters floated a conspiracy theory that the judge's daughter, a political consultant who has worked with Democratic candidates, is somehow lining her pockets off this case.
I don't know what this judge is up to, but I know his family's getting rich from the trial. And his daughter's raising tons of money from this.
What? Yes, his daughter's a political consultant who works with Democrats, but no, there's nothing to indicate she's making a penny off the case. But that's just the latest in a series of smears against Judge Merchan on Fox and elsewhere, which have completely disregarded his actual rulings in this case.
They know they have a judge in their pocket.
This is not America. This is a kangaroo court with a kangaroo judge whose daughter's making millions.
Again, if Trump and the Fox News crowd want to go after the prosecutor, I get it. I actually agree with them on a lot of the criticism, right? Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg brought this case more than 4 years after federal prosecutors decided not to charge him with what are basically the same facts. DA Bragg certainly seemed to bow to political pressure in bringing the case, hangs on a novel legal theory. And I'm convinced Bragg was trying to protect himself from attacks from the left. That's not a commentary on actual guilt. There may be a technical violation here. I'm just talking about whether the case should have been brought at all. But Judge Merchan's another story. He didn't bring the case. He was assigned it. And it seems like his actual rulings don't matter. It seems like there's nothing he can do that would appease Donald Trump and his allies. It's true yesterday, Judge Merchan warned Trump, quote, defendant is hereby warned that the court will not tolerate continued willful violations of its lawful orders and that if necessary and appropriate under the circumstances, it will impose an incarceratory punishment. Think about all those qualifiers, right? If necessary and appropriate. He's not going to do that. As long as Trump doesn't clearly, intentionally sort of spit in the face of the judge, it's a non-issue. But bigger picture, the judge has clearly operated knowing that his rulings are going to be scrutinized, in particular by conservatives. And the judge has handed down a number of rulings which make clear he is not doing the prosecutor's bidding. That hasn't stopped many from trying to paint him as a zealot with an axe to grind. Donald Trump in particular, so determined to sow distrust and undermine the credibility of the system, he's going after anyone and everyone who isn't 100% on his side, whether they deserve it or not. And Judge Merchan is squarely in the latter category. Again, difference between the judge and the DA. The former president may not want to admit it. I think he knows he's not getting a raw deal from this judge. But, of course, he can't say that.